was an ordinary mother, quiet, composed, who no one would ever expect to break the law. But when a mother, who is the protector of her children, becomes a murderer herself, it is not just a crime, it is a question mark on humanity. This is not a movie scene. This is a reality that shook the whole of Britain. A mother put a piece of her own liver to death. And when the police arrived on the scene was like the climax of a terrible crime film. On April 25th, 2025, the court ruled the murderer should not be sent to prison, but to a psychiatric hospital. But the question is, was she really a murderer? Or a mother who was surrounded by mental anguish, who was not even conscious of herself? This is a case where crime, mental illness, and Mother Nature, all three, are intertwined. Each layer, each stage of this story reveals a new truth. So let's understand this tragic crime from beginning to end and find out what that moment was when a mother stopped being a mother and became a murderer. This tragic incident took place in a peaceful and quiet area of the UK, where people knew each other, where neighbors trusted each other, and where no serious crime was ever expected. That morning, the emergency services received a deeply disturbing call. The person on the phone said, "Please send the police immediately. There's a child lying unconscious here. He may not be alive." The call was made by none other than the mother herself, who had just committed atrocities on her own son that are hard to imagine. When the police and ambulance crews arrived on the scene, the door was half open. There was complete silence inside the house, as if time had stopped. And as soon as they entered, they found the lifeless body of a young child lying on the floor. There was silence on his face, and his eyes were closed as if he were in a deep sleep. But that sleep was never going to end. The child's name was Elias, only 5 years old, an innocent, laughing and playing child whose life had just begun. How was the murder? The police said that the mother intentionally harmed him. Initial investigations revealed that the child had signs of physical violence, and apparently the wounds were severe enough to take his life. But surprisingly, there was no sign of any resistance or fight inside the house. No noise, no vandalism. It was all calm, but devastating inside. When the police questioned the mother, her face was blank. She was not crying, not speaking, just staring into space. Later, during the investigation, psychologists revealed that the woman was suffering from severe mental depression and psychosis. But the question is, how did this mother get to this point? And why couldn't that innocent Elias be saved? The complications of the case increased further after learning about the mother. Because she was not a professional criminal, she was not drunk, nor did she have a violent past. She was just an ordinary woman who dropped her son off at school, brought goods from the market, and seemed completely normal to outside observers. But the truth cannot always be seen with the eyes. Sometimes it is hidden behind the walls of the heart and mind. During the investigation, it was revealed that this woman had been suffering from psychological problems for many years. She sometimes suffered from severe depression. Some days she would not come out of her room. According to close relatives, she was often heard saying that "my mind is not supporting me," or "the world is against me." A few years ago, she was also undergoing psychiatric treatment. According to NHS records, she was diagnosed with postnatal depression, a mental disorder that occurs after the birth of a child. But financial difficulties, loneliness, and lack of family support completely broke her down. The home environment was also not ideal. Close sources say that after separating from her husband, she began to live alone, and the entire responsibility of the child also fell on her shoulders. Financial hardship, mental stress, and emotional emptiness altogether had become a storm, which eventually ended in a fatal outcome. According to neighbors, she was not very sociable, but she would sometimes peek out the window. Some say that there was always a strange tiredness and emptiness in her eyes, as if she was fighting an internal war. A neighbor said, "I never thought she would kill her son." She often went to the park with her child. She seemed less like a mother and more like a friend. Opinions on social media were divided. Some called her a psycho killer, while others expressed sympathy, saying it was a mother's scream, which no one heard in time. This was the moment when reality surpassed the crime, and the question was no longer just why the mother killed. It also became whether, if she had gotten help in time, or if society had listened to her, Elias might still be alive today. The police arrived at the scene and began collecting all possible evidence. Every wall, every room, every object in the house was evidence for them that could reveal the truth of the case. The forensic team thoroughly examined the child's body. The nature and depth of the injuries on the body made it clear that this was not an accident, but deliberate violence. The marks found on the child's head and chest in particular told a terrifying story in themselves. The belongings in the house were also examined. Fingerprints, bloodstains, and other evidence found on household items began to paint a clear picture. The murder was a planned crime. During further investigation, the police obtained statements from neighbors and close relatives. Several people said that the mother's behavior that day was unusual and unstable. Several witnesses said that they heard noises from the house, but no one was careful enough to pay attention. The most important step was the mother's interrogation. The police called her in for several hours of questioning. At first she remained silent, but as forensic evidence and witness statements emerged, she finally confessed that she had intentionally harmed her son. This confession took the case to a new level. The police immediately arrested the mother and presented her in court. At the time of her arrest, the mother's face was somewhere between indifference and fear, a woman who knew that her life had now changed forever. After the arrest, the case reached the court, where the language of law is spoken, and every fact is given a severe test. It was the place where an attempt was made to understand the depth of the mother's actions. The prosecutor argued before the court that the murder was a planned crime by a mother who deliberately broke her responsibilities. The image, which earlier appeared to be insignificant, had now turned into a terrible reality. But the defense counsel told a different story. He told the court that the accused was suffering from a serious psychological disorder and was deprived of her intelligence and consciousness at that time. The report of psychologists told the court that the mother had a serious mental illness, which was overshadowed by her intellect, and she was completely on her actions, couldn't control. The psychological report said that the accused had a serious mental health condition, due to which her behavior was unusual and dangerous. Due to this disease, she was given an indefinite hospital ordered to be admitted to a psychiatric hospital, where she would remain under treatment, not in prison. This decision was surprising to many people, but the law tried to separate the state of mental health from the crime. The court understood that the punishment is not only imprisonment, but also the right treatment, so that no other such story is repeated in the future. Mother's attitude was shaky even in court. Sometimes she cried, sometimes helplessly remained silent, a scene that shakes not only the law but also the human compassion. This case brings out the complexities of the psychological and legal systems, where the line of crime and mental illness becomes blurred. A mother who was both murderous and sick, a fact that society must understand. The court's decision to send the mother to a psychiatric hospital instead of prison caused a stir among the public. On the one hand, people said that justice has been served because a victim of mental illness needs treatment rather than punishment. On the other hand, many questioned whether it was really justice. Is it enough to simply hospitalize a mother who has taken the life of her child? Some called it injustice, saying that seeking punishment was necessary to prevent such incidents. The debate on social media was heated. People were seen making emotional messages and posts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. The hashtags Justice for Elias and Mental Health Matters were among the top trends. Some users stressed the need to raise awareness about mental illness, saying that taking care of mental health is everyone's responsibility. They were saying that this mother needed help, not punishment. While some demanded harsher punishment, saying murder is murder, no apologies accepted. They called the court's decision a legal blunder and a devaluing of human life. The case also caused a stir in the news world. Major news channels and websites published detailed reports and analyses. Legal experts and psychiatrists were invited to several programs to discuss aspects of the case. Some reports called the court's decision a victory for modern psychiatric laws, while others said the decision was a threat to social justice. The case not only challenged the court system, but also forced society to strike a balance between mental illness and punishment, a topic that will continue to be debated for many years to come. This case was not just a murder case, but the beginning of a deeper debate. Should a mentally ill person be given the same punishment as a sane murderer? The relationship between mental illness and crime has always been a complex question for the courts and society. Can someone who is unable to control their actions be held fully responsible? In the UK legal system, mental illness is viewed as a separate aspect of crime. Under the law, if a defendant is not consciously aware of their actions due to mental illness, they can be declared not guilty by reason of insanity. Instead of being sentenced, such suspects are admitted to a psychiatric hospital for treatment and supervision so that they do not become a threat to society again. This includes a legal order like the indefinite hospital order, under which the person is not kept in prison, but in a special institution for treatment. This case was not the only one. There have been several cases in the UK where mental illness played an important role in understanding the story behind the crime. For example, in 2018, a mother injured her child, but the court sent her to a special hospital for treatment based on a psychiatric report. Another incident is from 2020, where a man committed murder, but the court, considering his severe mental illness, ordered him to treatment instead of imprisonment. All these cases testify to how difficult it is to strike a balance between law and psychology, and to decide where crime or illness ends is a very sensitive matter. This innocent child, whose life had not yet fully begun, suddenly left this world. Her death not only destroyed a family, but shook an entire society. And her mother, who was once her protector, may never return to the light of ordinary life. A woman who is chained to her mental illness, and whose treatment still requires a long and complicated journey. This story gives us a profound message that silent mental suffering, which is often ignored, can be the most dangerous. Mental illness, fear, loneliness, and pain are poisons that hollow a person from the inside. If we recognize these signs and provide timely help, it is possible to prevent such painful stories. This incident reminds us that taking care of mental health is the responsibility of every human being. Otherwise, sometimes everything ends in silence. If you found this story inspiring, please like the video and be sure to share your thoughts in the comments below. We want to know what you think about this case. And if you want to see more of our authentic and thrilling stories like this, don't forget to subscribe. Press the bell icon to get notified of every new video. Stay connected with us and step into the world of real stories together. Thank you.